Chapter 6 is the final chapter on our book, and it's all about feedback. We open it with a story, our experience of learning to drive. And it was a confusing, baffling and sometimes frustrating experience. There were 3 pedals, we had 2 feet. Which ones to use? There was a gear stick, and we were meant to be holding the steering wheel with 2 hands. The aim of the driving instructor is to teach us to drive. And ultimately the aim is to teach us to drive so we don't need him sitting there. And that, like a parent, like a teacher, the aim is to make ourselves redundant. Teaching backwards is about starting with the end in mind. And this chapter is about starting with the end in mind with respect to the class, the level 1A class, the class you'd love to inherit next September. What knowledge, attitude, skills and habits would learners need to have in your classroom to be able to be autonomous, to be able to give themselves accurate feedback live during lessons? Now, this is an area that many teachers and schools around the country are wrestling with it. Many teachers are marking more than they've ever done before. You see teachers in classrooms with verbal feedback stamps, feeling as though they have to be accountable to be seen to be giving feedback. And what we want to challenge teachers to think about in this chapter is less is more. We look at ways in which teachers can get more bang for their buck with respect to both written feedback and oral feedback. The example we saw in one classroom where the teacher every single week spent hours and hours and hours marking children's books, their works of art. But when she flicked through, she found herself giving the same feedback to learners week after week. In that situation, we didn't need more feedback. We needed to change the attitudes and the habits of learners. So the first part of the chapter is how we can do that. How actually you can save yourself time by not marking the same mistakes week in, week out, and training learners to proofread their work. The second part of the chapter hangs around another principle of feedback, and it comes from a wonderful book by Graham Nuttall called The Hidden Lives of Learners. And in it, he talks about 80% of learners getting feedback from their peers, and how 80% of that feedback is wrong. So whether you use peer assessment explicitly in your classroom, children will compare their own work with others. We're aiming to build that level 1A class, the class who don't come around the classroom with their books pestering you saying, is this right, miss? Can you check this for me? But actually children who can accurately assess their own work and over a period of time have been trained by their teacher, not just to assess that work accurately, but to be able to give and receive high quality feedback. We love Ron Berger's metaphor that the best feedback is kind, specific and helpful. Indeed, it's feedback that encourages the learners to want to not only close their current gap they've got, but want to go out and open up new ones too. And the aim of our book is that the education process that children go through, but also the teachers working and living themselves, is one that creates a feeling that learning is powerful, learning is empowering, and learning is something that we all want to do more of, not just the children themselves, but the teachers too. Our aim throughout this book has been about teaching backwards. We want to make teachers' lives easier. We want to make it easier for learners to close gaps. And we want children to see that they can achieve mastery using feedback that they're given.